Hello, I'm Dan Gukin. Welcome to Troubleshoot Common PC Issues. This course provides you with knowledge about your computer, specifically what can go wrong and how to address it. And if you've been using a PC for any length of time, you know that things can and do go wrong, often more frequently than you like. The good news is that many computer problems can be quickly and easily addressed, even when you don't know a lot about computer hardware or software. This course presents a philosophical approach to hunting down PC problems and providing practical solutions. I'm not going to list everything because with all the combinations of hardware and software, the potential for things to go wrong is just too vast to list them all. Therefore, my approach is to describe how things work and which tools you can use to help resolve issues. As you'll discover, Windows is bursting with helpful utilities, some of which you probably know about and others that will surprise you. My goal is to help you become more computer savvy and to understand why things go wrong and how to address the problem in a straightforward, non-frustrating manner. That's correct. On your own, you can troubleshoot your own computer, fix problems, and return to do whatever marvelous thing it is that you do with your PC. Now together, let's troubleshoot common PC issues. This course is specific to the PC, which is any desktop or laptop computer hardware that runs the Windows 10 operating system. And yes, this course is also specific to that operating system. I assume that you have some basic computer knowledge, but nothing sophisticated is required. In this course, I'll show you how to access various tools in Windows and locate some programs that might not be that obvious to the casual user. So you don't need anything extra for this course beyond those tools that Windows 10 provides. These tools include the Settings app as well as the Control panel, both of which work together, though in Windows 10, the Settings app is the preferred way to control the system. I'll also show you the Windows Recovery menu, which is accessed as the PC starts. Some solutions in this course use the command prompt window, which harkens back to the PC's early text mode days. These may seem like mysterious tools, but they're useful to the troubleshooting process. Now together, let's troubleshoot common PC issues. At the root of all drama is disobedience. Nothing happens in a story unless a character or situation doesn't obey the given rules. From this nonconformity, the story emerges. Without it, drama doesn't exist. Problems with your computer can be dramatic, but it's not disobedience that causes the trouble. No, the root of issues you have with your computer, the situation that leads to just about anything going awry, is change. PC trouble comes from change. And that's the topic of this movie. When something goes wrong with your computer, a software program, or Windows itself, the question you must ask is what has changed? Have you added a peripheral? Was a software update recently installed? Did you change a setting? When you consider these changes, it truly helps you focus on the cause of the trouble. As an example, my PC's backup program stopped working. It wouldn't function and I couldn't get it to start. Then I recalled that there was a power outage the night before. That interruption was probably enough to disrupt the backup's regular schedule. The change affected the system. In the case of my backup not working, the first thing I tried was to restart the computer. That's the general purpose, tried and true method to fix most computer glitches. And in this case, it worked. The backup performed flawlessly after the system reset. But my point is that change, the power outage in this case, is what caused the trouble. Evaluating change may not give you the immediate answer, but it does lead you down the proper path. For example, if you install a new mouse, but the keyboard stops working, then you can guess that the mouse itself, the mouse's drivers, or something related to the installation caused that problem. Sure, the problem could be coincidental, but my experience tells me most of the time it's the thing that changed that tells you where to look first. My point isn't to avoid change. It's just to be alert. That change could cause the trouble. So what do? First, you can save your stuff. Don't install a new program, add a peripheral, or change network settings when you've been working on a document for 3 hours and you haven't saved it. That's just silly. Second, ensure that you have a current backup handy. Windows comes with a backup utility, and you need an external storage device or a network drive to make it work, but that's not an excuse to avoid backing up your stuff. In fact, that's my third and fourth points as well. Backup is important. Fifth, just be observant. A solution can be found. Most of the time, PC trouble isn't fatal, and the woe caused by changes is temporary. Finally, one element of change that you can't avoid is time. Things wear out. Hardware gets old. Software needs updating. A spinning hard drive can last only so long before the bearings wear and you need to replace it. Software updates, they address bugs and fix security issues, but only when you install them. You can't avoid time, but you can prepare for it. And when a software update is available, such as a hardware driver, install it. Later movies go into details on this process. You can't avoid father time, but you can be proactive. Also, consider that most PCs are good for about 4 to 6 years of life. After that, consider getting a new one. That's because eventually time catches up, and the best way to fix things at that point is to replace the entire system. A good first step toward resolving a computer issue is to determine whether the source is hardware or software. This determination isn't easy to make. Malfunctioning hardware can make software, particularly Windows, behave erratically. Likewise, bad software can make it appear as though hardware is to blame. The good news is that hardware issues are often detected when the computer starts, or not. When hardware fails, it doesn't work, and the device simply isn't available. In this movie, I cover various ways to determine whether an issue is hardware or software related. The tools I mention are covered in more detail in later movies. For example, when the PC starts up, it performs a power-on self-test, or POST. If any hardware fails to operate, a message appears on the screen, and if the monitor isn't working, you hear a series of beeps from the console's speakers. The POST doesn't catch all hardware failures, but it's the first step in checking whether a hardware issue exists. After the PC is started, the next step is to check for hardware issues using the Device Manager. Tap the Windows key, type Device Manager, press the Enter key to choose the top item on the list and open the Device Manager window. You see a list of all your PC's hardware. If any devices are malfunctioning, their section is open and they're flagged with a yellow triangle, such as those items shown here. The solution could involve reinstalling a device driver, which is covered more specifically in a later movie, but two tricks you can perform before then are to disable and re-enable the device or swap out the hardware. To disable a device, right-click on it. Choose Disable. Confirm that you want to disable it, and it's disabled. Now you re-enable it, and hopefully that solves the problem. Right-click, choose Enable. And in this case, it didn't. The other way to resolve some hardware issues, specifically with peripherals, is to swap out the hardware. For example, you swap out a mouse, keyboard, or monitor with one that works. If the swapped out hardware doesn't malfunction, then you know it's the original peripheral that's at fault and not something else in the system. To solve the problem, replace the defective hardware. Internal components are more difficult to swap out, but failure of these items is a wee bit more obvious. A fried power supply just doesn't work. The fan doesn't whir and the PC doesn't turn on. The solution is to replace the power supply, and I recommend that the replacement be rated at a higher wattage than the original. For example, a 500-watt power supply to replace a 350-watt power supply. Other internal components can be swapped out or replaced as well, but you'll probably opt for replacement and not swapping, which is time-consuming. For example, you can replace a video adapter, memory, and the mass storage device. These operations require some technical skill, plus they involve software issues such as reinstalling new drivers or even restoring the entire system from a backup. Troubleshooting software involves discovering which problem is causing the issue. Generally speaking, software issues are consistent, but which program is causing the trouble? You start with the operating system, Windows, then hardware drivers, and finally, the programs that you run. You can tell whether or not Windows is to blame when you start the PC in safe mode. If the problem persists in safe mode, then it's an operating system issue. You take steps in safe mode to address the problem, which is covered in another movie. Drivers are software programs that control your PC's hardware, such as the network driver, printer driver, and so on. When a driver malfunctions, the hardware doesn't work properly. The solution is to update or reinstall the driver, and if that doesn't work, then the hardware could be to blame. Software problems beyond Windows and drivers are specific to one program only, and usually they're consistent. You perform the same action and get the same buggy results, a crash, or some other malfunction. These problems could be due to bugs or the sign of an improper software installation. If the problem is a bug, then it must be addressed by the program's developer. The best you can do is to check the developer's website and ensure that the bug exists. This topic is covered in another movie. If the software issue isn't a bug, then it's probably hardware, in which case you perform diagnostic tests on the PC to confirm that the hardware is functioning properly. PC dealers and repair places I've spoken with have 3 general rules when it comes to determining whether a problem is hardware or software. If the problem is inconsistent, it's hardware. If the problem is consistent, it's software. And if the problem is with the PC's firmware, which is the motherboard circuitry, then it will just drive you nuts. Above all, keep in mind that the root of all PC trouble is change. Whether you've changed hardware or software recently is your biggest clue to finding a hardware or software solution. For instant help with technology trouble, most people turn to the Internet. It's a good choice, but it's also important to know how to best use the Internet. Simply typing a question into the address box may not yield you the best results. And because the Internet lacks fact-checking, you have no guarantee that any solution presented is the best one or even appropriate. In this movie, I cover using the Internet as a troubleshooting resource. You can use the Internet to find support in 4 areas: documentation, downloads, user forums, and technical support. The best source for this support is the manufacturer's or software developer's website. In fact, most companies prefer to offer support on the web as opposed to providing printed documentation, disks, or toll-free support lines. I know I'm dating myself, but kids, that's the way things worked back in the olden days. You had a printed manual and an 800 number to call in times of distress. The manual's ancestor today comes in the form of a pamphlet or a single slip of paper. It lists the online location where you can go to get more support, such as the manufacturer's website. As an example of using the Internet for support, suppose that you have an HP OfficeJet Pro 8610 printer. To look up detailed documentation, you search Google for the make and model number. Here, the first result is the product's support page on the HP website, drivers and downloads. I'll choose that search result. Here I can see that I'm on the Hewlett-Packard support website. This is important. The address shown is supporthp.com. This isn't some other site pretending to offer me drivers. This is the manufacturer's own website. It's important to pay attention to the website because some sites are bogus. They may purport to offer what you need, and they may indeed have the proper downloads, but they may not. Or in addition to the drivers or other software, they may install malware. That's why you must check the website name to ensure that it's where you want to go. Support items are listed right on the page. You can search all support. Here's a troubleshooting item, user guides, software and drivers. The software and drivers link takes me to a location where I can obtain programs that are needed to set up and install the device on my computer. On some support websites, you may have to choose which computer you have, the operating system, and other information. This website is smart, so only one link is available: Microsoft Windows 10, which is what this computer uses. Some sites also feature user forums. You need to scroll down on the HP site to find them. Forums provide a great resource. Your question might have been asked before, so you use the forums to search for your issue and then see what other users have done as a solution. You might also see a link to technical support. This support could be a live online chat, email, or a phone call, and I know it can be an ordeal to locate a phone number for technical support, but it's online somewhere. On the HP site, you can choose Contact HP, then work through the menus to find a contact number for phone support. But do keep in mind that plenty of resources are available to help you. Phone support need not be your first choice. Not every manufacturer's or developer's website might be as useful as this HP site, but it remains your first and best resource for online troubleshooting, help, and support. Everyone has a quick remedy for common ailments, whether it's breathing into a paper bag to stop the hiccups, or opening a stuck lid on a jar by tapping it with a knife handle. These homespun solutions are tried and true because they work. To address technology problems, a similar set of homespun wisdom exists. These solutions are popular because they work. They are restarting and running a troubleshooter. The most common quick fix for technology trouble is to restart. Turn off the gizmo. Wait. Turn it on again. The wait step is necessary to avoid a quick on-off cycle, which could potentially damage the electronics. So it's best to pause, count to 10 or higher, and then turn on the device. For example, you can unplug a stubborn peripheral, wait, then connect it again. That may fix the problem. Turn the monitor off, then on. Turn off the printer, then turn it on. If the device is USB powered, disconnect the USB cable, wait, then plug it in again. The only time I don't recommend this solution is for an external hard drive or any removable storage. In that case, you must properly eject the media before you turn it off. To restart the entire computer in Windows 10, tap the Windows key to pop up the Start menu, and then you can choose the power button and restart. The computer turns itself off and then on again. Often this simple action cures whatever ails the system. When the computer becomes stubbornly stuck, you must press and hold the power button. Keep holding it until the computer turns itself off, then wait a few minutes, and then turn the system on again. This technique works very well for laptops. Another place you can get help in Windows is the System Troubleshooter. Press the Windows key and type Trouble, then choose the troubleshooting item to display an extensive list of troubleshooters. For example, choose Playing Audio to run the audio troubleshooter and test or diagnose various issues you may have not hearing sounds on your computer. Now, I've had mixed success with these troubleshooters. Occasionally, it will resolve an issue, such as an internet connection troubleshooter resetting the computer's network hardware. Frequently, however, the troubleshooter resigns without a resolution. These are the quick fixes. A not-so-quick fix that you might hear people recommend is to reinstall the Windows operating system. This homespun solution was popular in years past, yet it's unnecessary 99 times out of 100. Instead of reinstalling Windows, I recommend targeted repair using something called System Restore. You can also repair Windows, and these procedures are covered elsewhere in this course. Windows 10 features a repair mode. It includes a host of startup diagnostic and troubleshooting tools available for use those times you experience problems with Windows, have startup issues, or suffer from other trouble that prevents you from using your computer. To restart your Windows 10 PC in repair mode, press the Windows I keyboard shortcut to bring up the Settings app. Choose Update and Security, Recovery, and click the Restart Now button. The computer system shuts down. When it starts up again, Windows is in repair mode. Here you see a menu chock full of startup and troubleshooting options. Continue, turn off your PC, use a device, and troubleshoot. Choose Continue to attempt to restart Windows normally. Choose Turn off your PC to shut down the system. The Use a Device option displays a list of boot devices. The screen may look like this, which shows devices by category, or you may see a list of technical descriptions of the various storage media attached to the computer. Choose one to start the system with the given device, such as a system recovery disk or other boot media. I'm going to click Back to go to the main menu. For troubleshooting, obviously, click the Troubleshoot button. The options presented are Reset this PC, Recover from the cloud, which may not be available on all systems, and advanced options. Now, resetting your PC is an extreme step. It reinstalls Windows in one of two ways. You can choose to keep all your files and programs and only reinstall the operating system, Windows, or you can reset everything and start afresh. Yes, these are drastic solutions. I would attempt these only when the computer fails to start properly, and try the option to keep your files first before you decide to remove everything. The advanced options represent true troubleshooting choices. They are System Restore, which helps you address bad software installation, driver updates, or other changes to Windows that didn't quite work properly. Uninstall updates, also titled Go Back to Previous Versions. This appears when an older version of the Windows operating system is available to reinstall. System Image Recovery works only when you've created a system image. Use the image to restore the Windows operating system on your computer. Startup Repair runs a diagnostic that attempts to address Windows startup issues. The command prompt item starts a Windows text mode session, which helps with advanced troubleshooting, but only when you know the commands to type. The UEFI or UEFI firmware settings option restarts the PC and enters the Unified Extensible Firmware Interface program. You can use this program to make firmware adjustments to the PC. Finally, on the See More Recovery options, you'll find Startup Settings, which lets you set options for starting Windows. To exit repair mode, back on up to the main menu, and choose the option Continue, which starts Windows 10 normally. To create a system repair disk, grab a thumb drive or media card with a capacity of at least 16 gigabytes, and more is okay. Stick the thumb drive into a USB port, or if you're using a media card, insert it now, and ensure that the thumb drive or media card doesn't store anything you need. The process of creating the system repair disk erases the media. If you see a notification pop up after you insert the system repair disk media, dismiss it. To create the system repair disk in Windows 10, tap the Windows key and type Recovery Drive. When you see the Recovery Drive item in the list, choose it. And click Yes to confirm in the UAC warning. Ensure that the option to backup system files to the recovery drive is chosen. That way, Windows system files can be recovered from the repair disk media. Click the Next button to continue. Wait while the system calculates how much storage it needs. Here you see how much storage the thumb drive or media card needs, and also listed are available media, which includes the removable drive you just inserted. Ensure that that drive is chosen and click Next. You're reminded that the media will be erased. Click the Create button. Windows builds the recovery disk. This process takes many minutes. Upon success, you see that the recovery drive is ready. Click the Finish button. Now, the system repair disk is bootable media, and that means you can use it to start your computer, especially in times of woe. To try out the disk now, keep the media attached to your computer and restart Windows. Click the Start button and press and hold the Shift key while you choose Restart from the menu. Pressing and holding the Shift key starts the computer in repair mode. To use the recovery drive, choose Use a Device. Now, if you see a menu of available media, choose the thumb drive. It may be listed by manufacturer or brand name. Look for the words Boot Drive and choose that media. On this system, I choose USB storage to boot the system repair disk. Here's the repair mode screen, which is almost exactly like the Windows Recovery Console, but on a thumb drive. The tools here help you diagnose and repair any problems when the system's primary storage device won't come online or when you experience other startup issues. At this point, assuming you don't have any trouble to shoot, click the Continue option to start Windows normally. I recommend that you keep your system recovery disk handy, label it as such, and consider updating it as new versions of Windows 10 are released. Hardware problems become most obvious when you start the computer, or not. In fact, the first problem anyone notices is that the computer won't start. In that situation, the issue is the power supply. First questions. Is it plugged in? Does the wall socket have power? You can obtain a socket tester at any hardware store to determine not only if the socket has power, but confirm that it's wired properly. If not, plug a lamp into the socket and see if it turns on. Check the power cord. Both ends must be plugged in. The cord must be intact. Look at the back of the PC for a power supply switch. Ensure that it's on. Finally, listen to the power supply fan. Is it whirring? If the PC still fails to start, this situation happens during periods of intense power usage. The layman's term is brownout, though it's more properly called a dip. If that's the case, you just have to wait. Check the console. Specifically, look for its power lamp. Is it on? Can you hear the CPU fan, which is different from the power supply fan? Tap the caps lock key. Does the caps lock lamp illuminate on the keyboard? If so, the keyboard is getting power. That's a good sign. When the system has power, it begins its power on sequence. The first step is the power on self-test, or post. The post examines hardware and determines that everything is available and functioning. If the post fails, you see an error message, such as no keyboard. And if the video output doesn't work, you hear a series of beeps. The post also checks the system's internal configuration. This information is stored on a battery-backed-up chip on the motherboard. If that battery fails, then you see a startup configuration error. The error messages for a bad motherboard battery can vary. They could say anything from a missing hard drive to no memory, or the system's date and time could be incorrect. The solution is the same: replace the motherboard's battery. If you're comfortable opening the PC's console, you can locate the coin-sized battery on the motherboard and find a suitable replacement. If not, any computer repair shop will do the job for you. Generally speaking, the motherboard battery should last for well over 6 years, so if you see a configuration error on a new system, it could be a sign that other electronics have failed. Now, if the post passes, then an operating system is loaded. The major error at this point, which can induce heart attacks, is missing operating system. That could mean a damaged hard drive, a botched Windows upgrade, or even a nasty malware infection. To remedy the situation, you must start the PC in recovery mode and attempt to repair Windows. Or you can use a system repair disk to start the computer and repair Windows that way if the main hard drive is offline. These topics are covered in another movie. If the PC's primary storage device and Windows are having a good day, then the operating system continues to load. Eventually you see the sign-in screen, or if the system is in the middle of an update, you may see the updates installed and then the system could restart again. After you sign in, your user profile and other configurations are set, various startup programs run, and then you can stop troubleshooting and start using the computer. Your PC features a startup configuration tool called the UEFI. That weird acronym stands for Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. Informally known as the BIOS, the UEFI, or UEFI, provides an interface between the PC's basic hardware and the operating system. It also offers a configuration menu or shell where you can set basic hardware options. This movie covers how to access and use the UEFI and how to update the PC's firmware, which is also referred to as updating the BIOS. You can access the UEFI from the PC's startup menu, or you can get there from the Windows recovery menu. The startup menu consists of a list of function keys you can press when the PC first starts. The list is shown briefly, so you must be quick to catch and press a key. As an example, my Office PC lists 3 function keys I can press. The F2 key enters the startup program, the UEFI. F7 enters the BIOS, which also runs the UEFI program. And F10 enters a boot menu, which lists all media attached to the computer, some of which may contain a boot drive. These keys may be different on other PCs. For example, the test PC here uses the F12 key, and some computers may not display any startup keys at all. That's okay because you can get into the UEFI from within Windows. This process works only when your PC features a higher security level than this system does. You access the UEFI from the Windows Recovery menu, which was shown in an earlier movie. The steps to take are to 1. You choose Troubleshoot, then Advanced Options, then you'll see a button that says UEFI Firmware Settings. Choose that option and then choose Restart. You don't need to hold any special keys in that instance, you just wait for the UEFI interface to show up. On this computer, I press the F12 key, and this is the menu I see. Legacy Boot, those are various boot devices. But what I want is the BIOS setup, which is really the UEFI. All of this information is rather complex. In fact, it's rare these days to access a UEFI to change routine settings. Unlike the old BIOS, the UEFI is rather smart. Some items you may want to take note of are the motherboard's product name, its version number, its serial number. These items are necessary should you need to update the BIOS or apply a firmware update. On this computer, I'm going to choose System Information. And here on the right, you see detailed information about the computer, including the BIOS version, A23, and the service tag, F16JZ12. These numbers are important if I want to obtain a new BIOS for this system. So I'll write down this information, just so I can keep it handy, because I won't be looking at this the whole time. Or, if you want to be lazy, take a picture of the computer screen using your phone. When you quit the UEFI interface, you may be asked whether or not you want to retain any changes. This question comes up whether you've actually made changes or not. So don't freak out if you made changes when you didn't. Just tell the computer not to save any changes. In this case, I haven't changed anything. I'm going to try to click Exit, and it should go ahead and just shut down. Good. Wasn't asked that question. When it comes time to update your PC's BIOS or firmware, you need to obtain an updated BIOS or firmware installation program from your computer or motherboard's manufacturer. This isn't an activity you set out to do because, well, you enjoy computer maintenance. No, you update the BIOS when you're required to do so. When I last did an update, it was because my computer was randomly crashing, and I figured a BIOS update wouldn't hurt. The most important part about obtaining a BIOS update is to ensure that the update is specific to your PC's motherboard, model, and version number. This is the reason why I recommended earlier that you take a note of those details in the UEFI program. For this computer, I visited the Dell website right here. Dell manufactured the computer. I downloaded their detector program, I ran it, it determined which make and model I had, so I didn't really need to write down the BIOS number and the service tag number, but it was good that I did. And here is the update for the BIOS for this particular computer. To obtain it, I click the download button. Once you download the BIOS update specific to your computer, go ahead and quit all other programs because the update process restarts the system. So you don't want to leave any unsaved files lingering. Run the update program. If you're prompted with a UAC warning, confirm that you want to run it. Follow the directions on the screen. The update is applied automatically, so you just sit back and watch. Upon success, the PC is going to restart. You're going to see some text screen stuff possibly, but eventually what happens is the new BIOS or firmware is loaded. Now remember, updating the BIOS introduces your old friend change into the equation. Be on the alert for anything different after you update the BIOS. If trouble does occur, it was probably the BIOS upgrade that initiated the problem. At that point, you must contact the manufacturer for further assistance. Some hardware problems can really frustrate you. Perhaps you tried swapping out a graphics card or replacing a hard drive, and yet the computer still malfunctions. One thing you can check without having to further mess with the hardware is the computer's memory. In this movie, I demonstrate the Windows Memory Diagnostic. It's a tool that helps you check your PC's RAM to ensure that it's functioning properly. The memory diagnostic may not fix the problem, but it will eliminate the computer's main memory as a potential source. To run the Windows Memory Diagnostic, first ensure that no programs are open and that everything you want to save is saved. Then tap the Windows key and type Memory Diagnostic. There it is. Choose Windows Memory Diagnostic Desktop App. Now you have two options. Choose the first one, Restart Now, to check and fix problems. Windows shuts down and the PC restarts. When it does, it runs the memory diagnostic. This screen is simplistic, but informative. If any errors are encountered, you'll see a notice immediately. Otherwise, the program progresses. It takes a few minutes to complete. When the diagnostic is complete, the computer restarts again. Go ahead and sign into Windows. And after all the startup madness and haste, eventually you'll see a notification describing the results of the memory diagnostic. There, and on this computer, no memory errors were detected. If memory problems were encountered, replace your PC's RAM, all of it. You can do this yourself or pay a dealer to replace the memory. And while you're at it, get more memory in your computer, which is always a boon to its performance. Now, if memory wasn't the problem, you'll need to continue troubleshooting. But at least you can move forward and know that memory wasn't the cause of whatever ails the computer. Nothing instills terror like a startup message that reads, "Missing operating system." This error doesn't directly imply that Windows has packed up its bags and taken holiday somewhere tropical. No, this beast of a message is a specific startup error, and quite a few situations can rouse that monster. In this movie, I go over the different types of messages you can see when you start your computer and how to resolve them. The steps involve using the Startup Repair tool, as well as using the command prompt to fix a boot drive's master boot record. In the PC startup process, the firmware's last duty is to scan for and load an operating system from one of the system's mass storage devices. A bootable storage device is one with an operating system installed, so when the firmware can't locate such media, it displays one of the vile messages you see here. To review the list of storage media and see what the firmware sees when it tries to hand off the ball, you can do one of two things. The first is to visit the Windows Recovery menu. Accessing the Recovery menu is covered in another movie, but here's a shortcut. Click the Start button, choose Power, press and hold the Shift key, and click Restart. The computer restarts and runs the Windows Recovery menu. To review the boot devices, to see what the firmware sees, on this screen you would choose the option Use a device. But on this screen it doesn't show up. That's because this PC lacks the secure boot technology feature. So on this system, you would have to use the second trick, and that's to press the F12 key or the F10 key when the system first starts. Then you'll see the list of boot devices. In both cases, what you're looking for is a bootable drive, something beyond the PC's main boot disk with which you can start the system. For example, you would use the System Recovery Disk, which is covered in another movie, which would bring you right to this prompt because that's where you want to end up. The process of repairing the system's main boot disk involves clicking the Troubleshoot button, Advanced Options, and Startup Repair. The system restarts and attempts to repair itself. Now, nothing is wrong with this PC, so nothing will be repaired. I hope. I sign in with my main account, and either there was something wrong that it couldn't fix, but in most cases what this means is that nothing was wrong. No problems were found. Click Advanced Options to return to the Windows Recovery menu. Otherwise, you would see directions on the screen that would tell you what to do next, implement a suggestion, follow a solution, something along those lines. Another thing you can try to do is to rebuild the main storage device's master boot record, or MBR. The System Repair tool might be able to attempt this process as well, but you can try it specifically if System Repair didn't do the job. At the main Windows Recovery menu, choose Troubleshoot. Advanced Options, Command Prompt. A command prompt window appears. Now you would type a command here, boot rec /fixmbr. Type it exactly as shown here, only one space between boot rec and the slash. You would press enter, and the boot rec program attempts to fix the master boot record, or MBR, for the Windows boot drive. Now I'm not doing it here because this PC has no startup issues. If it did, I'd run the program. Generally, that would fix it. close the command prompt window, and turn off the PC. When you turn on the system again, Windows should load. The operating system is found. If not, the problem may be more severe. For instance, the hard drive could be damaged and need to be replaced. If you must do so, then you recover Windows, your programs, and all your files thanks to any recent backup you have. Back when the PC first debuted, the shutdown process was simple. You flipped the big red switch, the power went off, hey, you were done. Today, the shutdown process on a PC is more formal, designed to prevent data loss and controlled by software, so it's not without various issues. Now, the normal process works like this. To shut down the computer, you click the Start button, which is ironic, choose the Power gizmo, and then Shut Down. If any other accounts are active, which means another user is logged into the same PC, or you've switched accounts, which is unusual, you'll be alerted and given a chance to cancel the shutdown and direct the other person to sign out of Windows. Otherwise, the shutdown process commences, and it goes on its merry way, and any open programs are closed. Now, if data is unsaved, as you can see here, you'll be given a chance to save. So click Cancel, and then you can go back into the program. There you go. We need to save. Here we are. Save the changes to Untitled. And now with that saved and closed, we'll try again. Now, assuming that your data is saved, the shutdown process itself signs you out of Windows, closes all processes, stops all tasks, and directs the PC's power management software to turn off the computer. The only time this process really drags is during a Windows update. Now, when that occurs, messages on the screen will alert you to the update process. Do not force the PC off at this point. Just wait and let the updates install. To address various shutdown woes, first ensure that your programs are all up to date. If you're using legacy programs from older computers, they may not properly interpret the shutdown signal. The solution is to get the latest version of the program. Hardware that stalls a shutdown might also suffer from software problems. Ensure that all hardware drivers are up to date and current. If the system is completely stubborn, you can't move the mouse or access the keyboard, then you must force a shutdown. Press and hold the computer's power button for about 8 seconds, and the system should turn itself off. Upon startup, you will see whether the problem persists, and then you can take action such as running a system restore, rolling back a driver update. System restore is covered elsewhere in this course. When the shutdown process doesn't go smoothly, Windows informs you. Upon restarting, the system displays a message that the computer was improperly shut down. If you see such a message, first choose the option to start Windows normally. If that doesn't work, enter Safe Mode to perform additional troubleshooting, or run System Repair from the Windows Recovery menu as described elsewhere in this course. This is the same solution you would attempt should the computer somehow enter an endless restart cycle. Start the PC and access the Windows Recovery menu. Then you can enter Safe Mode, run System Repair, or perform a System Restore. Another shutdown and restart issue takes place for a reason. You may be one of the crowd who keeps their computer on all the time. If so, you turn on the computer's monitor in the morning and you notice that Windows has restarted overnight. That's the Windows Update service in action. Updates that require the computer to restart are vital security updates. The computer restarts for a reason, and it restarts no matter how you've configured Windows Update. So don't be alarmed. The computer is actually behaving normally and safely. I find the term safe mode rather humorous. Does it imply that Windows normally runs in unsafe mode? Regardless, the point of safe mode is to diagnose and repair software problems, specifically those owned by Windows. In safe mode, Windows runs with a bare set of drivers and support processes. If the problem you're experiencing is with Windows itself, safe mode lets you know. Plus, it provides an environment where you can easily fix other issues. In this movie, I cover safe mode. To enter safe mode, you use the MSConfig utility. First, ensure that no programs are open and that all your data has been saved. Then press the Windows and R key combination, WinR, to bring up a Run dialog box. Type MSConfig and press Enter. The MSConfig utility comes in handy for troubleshooting purposes, and it's covered specifically in a later movie. For now, click the Boot tab. choose Safe Boot. The minimal setting is what you want. If you need to use the network in safe mode, for example, you want to test the network adapter, choose the network option. Click OK. Click the Restart button. Windows shuts down and then restarts in safe mode. Here is the safe mode sign-in screen. You see that the network is unavailable because I didn't select that option in the MSConfig utility window. So sign into your account on the safe mode screen just as you would sign into Windows. Type your account's password. You may notice that the video resolution is lower than normal and the wallpaper is gone from the desktop, and some startup programs don't run. The screen features the words Safe Mode in all four corners. At this point, you troubleshoot. For example, you can attempt to uninstall a program that won't uninstall otherwise. You can run system recovery, the system file checker, restore files from a backup, and perform diagnostics. These tools may run in safe mode where they might not otherwise run for whatever reason. You can also determine at this point whether or not Windows is to blame for the problem. For example, if the system doesn't show any error messages at this point, then you know the issue lies elsewhere with a specific program or hardware driver, but not with Windows. If the problem persists in safe mode, it's either an issue with Windows itself or a hardware problem. To exit safe mode, open the MSConfig utility again. Press Win-R, the Windows key and R, and you can type MSConfig if necessary, or it might already appear as shown here. Press the Enter key, click the Boot tab, and remove the Safe Boot checkmark. Click OK. Click the Restart button, and Windows starts normally. If you can't use the MSConfig utility to start your PC in safe mode, then you can also access safe mode from the Windows Recovery menu. Using the Recovery menu is covered in another movie. Once you start the PC and you see the Recovery menu, choose Troubleshoot, Advanced Options, Startup Settings, and Restart. After the computer restarts, you'll see the Startup Settings screen. Choose Item 4 to boot into safe mode. Choose Item 5 if you need network access while in safe mode, and then the PC starts up in safe mode. One final note. Safe mode is for troubleshooting only. It is not meant as an alternative way to run programs in Windows. You don't use safe mode to check your email or use Microsoft Office or to play a game. If you can't do those things in Windows normally, you need to fix the issue. If that process involves using safe mode, then do so. Once the problem is resolved and your PC is working again, then you can return to using the computer normally. The root of PC trouble is change. Microsoft recognized that change happens unexpectedly, so they included a tool to help unwind the clock. It's called System Restore. The System Restore feature provides a quick backup of vital system settings. It creates a restore point. If anything goes awry in the system, you can use the restore point to bring back the computer into its previous working condition. That's the theory. And the feature works quite well, so well in fact that System Restore takes place automatically in Windows 10. Whenever you install new software, a restore point is created. If anything unexpected happens due to that change, you can run System Restore to recover. To do so, or to check on System Restore, press the Windows and Break key combination to bring up the system window. Choose System Protection to view the System Properties dialog box. Click the System Protection tab if it's not automatically shown. If System Restore isn't active, then the button is dimmed. To activate it, click the Configure button. Choose Turn on System Protection. Set the amount of disk space to use, such as 2%, which is plenty, then click OK. To review any System Restore points, or to restore the system to a previous state, click the System Restore button. If no points are set, you'll see a warning. Click the Cancel button. I'll show you how to create a restore point in a moment. Otherwise, click the Next button. You see a list of restore points, and you can choose the Show More option to view the lot. If you need to restore the system, select a recent restore point. In fact, the most recent one is your best choice. The odds of recovery from an earlier restore point are kind of low, though you can try them if the most recent restore point doesn't work. Click the Next button. To restore the system, you click the Finish button. I'm not going to do it here, but that's the next step. Windows would then shut down the computer. Upon restarting, information is recovered from the restore point, taking your computer back in time. You just wait while the computer restarts and applies the changes. Only when you see the message that the system has been restored is the process complete. While Windows does a good job creating a restore point, you can manually create one at any time. For example, I strongly recommend doing this before installing new hardware. From the System Properties dialog box, click the Create button. Type a description, such as Memory Upgrade. Click the Create button. Windows saves information about the computer's current state. Click the Close button when it's done. How often should you create a restore point? Not that frequently, only when you're upgrading hardware. Generally speaking, Windows creates its own restore points when you install new software or whenever the system is updated. If for some reason a recent update has prevented Windows from starting, then you can run the System Restore utility from the Windows Recovery menu, which was covered in an earlier movie. At the Windows Recovery menu, choose Troubleshoot, Advanced Options, System Restore. Finally, System Restore is a great tool, but it's not a substitute for backing up your computer files or for creating a system image. Its real name is the System Configuration Utility, but most people know it by the program name, MSConfig. This utility is ideal for troubleshooting PC boot issues and Windows problems. It also has the capability to control startup programs as well as to launch other troubleshooting tools. To run the System Configuration Utility, press the Windows and R keyboard shortcut to see the Run dialog box and type MSConfig. Press Enter. The System Configuration window appears. The window features several tabs. General lists startup settings. Normal startup is the way Windows normally starts, loading everything. Diagnostic startup loads only basic drivers, but not, for example, network drivers. This isn't the same as safe mode, as more of Windows is loaded. Selective startup lets you choose what to load. You might see this item selected on a PC that can boot multiple versions of Windows or a system that you've upgraded from an earlier operating system. The Boot tab is where you find the Safe Boot option, which is an easy way to enter safe mode in Windows. You can choose options for safe mode, such as having the network available. You can also choose this tab to select another operating system to load if one shows up in this list. The Services tab lists Windows services. Now, these are mostly background programs that run while you use Windows. They start up automatically. Here you can disable a startup program if it's behaving erratically. To do so, remove the check mark by an item. Click OK to restart the computer and test whether the system runs normally without that program's startup service. If so, you either uninstall the program or remove the service or just keep it disabled. Closely related to the services are the programs shown on the Startup tab. In Windows 10, this list is found instead on the Task Manager, so click the Open Task Manager link to view the list of startup programs. Unlike services, these are programs that start automatically. To disable one or more for troubleshooting purposes, select it and click the Disable button. Finally, the Tools tab shows a list of various troubleshooting or system programs that help you configure Windows and resolve issues. For example, choose Windows Troubleshooting and click the Launch button. Now, don't click OK, which closes the system configuration window. Instead, click Launch. And here you see the troubleshooting page in the Settings app, where you find all sorts of help for tracking down various issues, from internet connections to the blue screen of death. Launch the Resource Monitor to view how your PC is using the CPU, storage, and network, memory, and other hardware resources. If you experience a slow PC, review this list to see whether one or more programs are running amok and using a lot of resources. Back in the MSConfig utility, the Tools tab, you can access the Task Manager, the Registry Editor, System Restore, and more. That's why this feature is so useful. When you're done using System Configuration Utility, click the OK button. Now, if you've changed items, you'll see a prompt to restart the PC. Go ahead and do so. When the system starts again, any changes you've made take effect. After you troubleshoot or solve some startup mystery, you must remember to reset the system's configuration. For example, you would remove the option to start in safe mode. Otherwise, well, when the computer restarts, it comes up in safe mode again. To start the system normally, choose Normal Startup on the General tab, click OK, and then restart the PC. The Windows Task Manager is a tool that shows you which programs, processes, and services are running on your computer. It also offers insight into how the PC is performing and can help you clear up some issues with programs run amok. To access the Task Manager, you can use the keyboard shortcut. You press Ctrl, Shift, Escape. Now, if your fingers aren't that limber, you can press the Windows and R key combination, Win-R, to bring up the Run dialog box, and you can type in Task MGR, which does the same thing. The Task Manager window is far more interesting than what you see here. If you just find your PC's Task Manager window as dull as this one, click the More Details button. Here is the proper Task Manager window. The Processes tab lists programs running in Windows. These include apps or programs, as well as background processes. The background processes are related to services, which I'll get into in a moment. You see details and statistics for each process. For example, this is where you'd spot a program with a memory leak. You'd see its memory usage rise over time. Or perhaps a program is stuck and won't quit. As an example, assume that the Notepad program shown here is stuck. I tried closing it normally, but it just won't go away. In the Task Manager window, click to select the stubborn program. Click the End Task button. And the dead program finally gets buried. This button isn't magic. It simply sends the quit signal to the program, just as if you quit it manually. But when a program is stuck, that's how you terminate it. The Performance tab tells you how the PC is doing. You see statistics and live updates for the CPU or processor, memory, storage, and networking. If you've noticed the PC's running slowly, you can confirm that CPU activity is high. If so, return to the Processes tab and sort the list by CPU usage. The CPU hog would be on the top of this list. That way you can find the program and process that's slowing down the system. The App History tab displays a list of frequently used programs, including information on each. If I sort the list by CPU time, the computer shows which programs I've been using today and how much of the system's resources these programs are consuming. The Startup tab lists programs that start when Windows is loaded or when you sign into your account. These are also called background processes, and their specific programs are shown on the Processes tab. If you want to test a specific startup program to see whether or not it's causing problems, you can disable it here. Choose the startup program and click Disable. You can restart the PC and Windows won't load that program. If the problem you're experiencing stops, then you know that the specific startup program was to blame. To re-enable the program, you would select it from this list and then click the Enable button. The Users tab lists any other users signed into the system. For most PCs, that's only you. If anyone else was logged in or you switched users, their name would appear in this list. To switch users, you choose the other user from the Start menu. You choose your account name and then choose the user from the list. I confess that this feature isn't commonly used on any PC. The Details tab lists all running programs and processes in the computer, everything, including Windows' own programs. For example, here you see a huge number of entries for the SVC host program, which does a lot of things in Windows. For each thing it does, you see an entry for SVC host. Most of the items here are referenced on the Startup tab or the Processes tab. Finally, the Services tab lists options that control what Windows does and how it behaves. The services themselves are run from the various programs listed on the Details tab, which are also related to other items shown in the Task Manager. Actually, everything is related, but here you can see individual duties. For example, here is the Windows Update Service, WUAUSERV. It checks for Windows updates. This tab only lists the services. If you wanted to mess with them, you need to click the Open Services link. The Services Management console lists services by name plus a description, which you can see better when you widen the window and adjust the column spacing. The list here is sorted alphabetically. I'll locate the Windows Update service that I just showed you. The status tells you whether or not the service is running. Startup type determines whether the service is started automatically, upon request or manual, or whether it's been disabled. If I open the Windows Update service, you can see that it's one of but many functions provided by the SVC host program. And most services are controlled elsewhere in Windows. You do not need to access this panel in order to control the service. In fact, about the only time you'll make adjustments to a service is when you're directed to do so. For example, you might be directed to disable a service for troubleshooting purposes. Otherwise, I don't recommend that you poke around with the services, as disabling and enabling random services in Windows can affect your PC's performance, and not in a good way. Press the Escape key to close the Task Manager window. The registry isn't the treasure trove of secrets the hackers want it to be. It's obscure and cryptic, designed that way deliberately, so while it can help resolve some Windows issues, it's not the friendliest thing to use. To examine or modify the registry, run the Registry Editor program. Tap the Windows key and type regedit, R-E-G-E-D-I-T, and choose the Registry Editor desktop app. Click Yes if you see a UAC warning. And here you see the Registry Editor window displaying the registry's contents in a specific structure, like folders on a hard drive. At the top level are 5 registry hives. HKey class's root is used by programs for file association and sharing. HKey current user contains settings for the current user, that's you. HKey local machine contains settings for all users. HKey users contains the original user settings. Items from this hive are copied into the current user hive. And HKey current config contains hardware information about the PC. The purpose of all these hives and their contents is to retain system-wide settings in a central location. Programs and the Windows operating system access registry information, and you can make changes as well. In fact, you can do so all the time just by using Windows normally. It's rare that you must go spelunking into the registry editor to fix something, though it does happen. Now, before you do anything in the registry, and especially if you just plan on goofing off, though I think that's called hacking, back up the registry. Choose File, Export, and use the default directory Documents. Type a name for the backup, such as a registry backup, and follow it by the date, and click Save. Now at this point, you could make changes as directed by whatever source you're using as a reference. The goal is to find a specific registry key and edit it. To do so, you would open a specific hive such as HKey current user, and then you would open various folders to get to a specific key, such as Software, Microsoft, Windows, Current Version, Explorer, and the various keys appear on the right side of the window. Now, these items are cryptic, and without any documentation, they're useless to you. But to edit one, you would double-click it and type a new value as prescribed by whatever authority you're using as a reference. So for example, whatever this would do, you double-click it, and then you could type a new value in here. Now, if something goes awry, you can restore the old registry backup. You'd have to restart the registry editor, and then click File, Import, and locate the backup file you created earlier. Click Open to restore that backup. Now, I'm going to remind you again that the registry is not a place to mess around. Be aware that some tips and tricks offered on the internet may not be valid for your version of Windows, so be careful. Always ensure that you back up the registry before you perform any task or random experimentation. To discover what's happening or has happened in your computer, you can review the Windows event log. The event log is a chronicle of the computer's activities. It may reveal the source of trouble, confirm your suspicions, or point you in the right direction when you just don't know what the heck is going on. To peruse those events, run the Event Viewer program. Tap the Windows key and type Event Viewer, and there it is. Choose the program from the top of the list. The Event Viewer window is organized in a hierarchical structure, shown on the left side of the window. The center pane shows details. The right pane lists actions. I recommend that you maximize the window as shown here to take in all the information. Choose a log file to view. For example, if you just experienced something odd, or if the computer has experienced something odd, say a program has crashed or you saw an error message about the PC's hardware, you choose the System log. Open Windows Logs and choose System. It may take a few moments for the log to populate, so be patient. When the log appears, you may have to adjust the panes so that you can see the detailed information. Log entries are sorted by date and time. The source indicates which program or process generated the message. These are informational items. A yellow triangle indicates a warning. A red circle shows an error. To glean more information, select an item. The bottom part of the window lists relevant information. In this case, it looks like permissions weren't granted for something to run, which for some reason generated an error. The key point to this description is to see if the message is relevant to the issue you're experiencing. It may confirm what's to blame, such as a failing network adapter or perhaps a corrupt file. Now, don't be alarmed at the warnings and errors. A lot of them are routine, and Windows recovers. Also, not every incident is flagged by an error. For example, recently, my PC reset in the middle of a game. When I checked the logs, I found nothing other than an unexpected shutdown message, which was recorded after the fact. I can only assume that the PC got too hot, or perhaps the game software simply crashed. That happens, and it didn't happen again, so the cause is anyone's guess. The Custom Views part of the Event Viewer contains specific information based on filters. You can create your own filter to specifically monitor certain items in the logs. For example, if you want to monitor all hardware errors in one place, choose Create Custom View from the list of actions. Choose only the more serious error types. Select the Hardware Events log. The rest of the settings look OK, and you can further customize the view later. Click OK. Type a name for the new view, such as Hardware Errors. Click OK. Here is the custom view is empty. Later I can come back and check the view, which pulls the filtered information from all of the logs. When reviewing the logs, keep in mind that the warning, errors, and other entries aren't necessarily a signal of impending doom in your computer. If you view the logs frequently, you'll find a lot of items flagged that haven't interrupted your work or altered the computer's behavior. The bottom line is not to be alarmed or overreact to the warnings and errors. In most cases, Windows deals with the problem, so you don't need to do anything. But when you're having trouble, checking the Event Viewer can help you pinpoint the source or at least better understand what's going on. Windows issues can be fixed without doing anything drastic, but you must know the secret. And the secret is a command line utility called the System File Checker. It fixes broken parts of Windows in a non-drastic manner. I'll start the System File Checker in the PowerShell. So right-click on the Start button and choose PowerShell Admin. Click Yes in the UAC dialog box, and the PowerShell Administrator window appears. The System File Checker program name is SFC. Now that's followed by an option that directs the program to perform a specific task. For now, you can type SFC and follow the option with /verify only, one word. Nothing is wrong with this computer. Well, nothing that I know about, but this command will note any potential problems without fixing them. Press Enter to run the command. The scan takes some time, so you can do something else or just watch in anxious anticipation. Had any deleterious issues been detected, information would appear right here on this screen. Here the system checked out OK, which is what I expected. If not, error messages are displayed. Windows also references one of its log files, which you can examine for specifics. Now for a more thorough test, you can type sfc /scan now. Now, I won't run this command at this time because it takes a long time, but it would detect and repair any bad files that Windows found earlier, fixing the operating system. The SFC command can also be run from Safe Mode or the Windows Recovery menu. At the command prompt, type what you see here, SFC/scan now. This approach may be more effective and worth trying if running it at the PowerShell doesn't fix things. Finally, when nothing else works, you can choose to reinstall Windows. So open the Settings app, press the Windows and I keyboard shortcut, choose Update and Security, Recovery. Under the Reset This PC item, you would click the Get Started button. I recommend that you keep your files. Choose this option should you resort to the dire circumstances that require you to reinstall Windows. This option is also available from the Windows Recovery menu. From the main screen, you would choose Troubleshoot, then Reset This PC and see these two options displayed again. This is a drastic step, a last resort if any of the other techniques don't solve the problem. Your PC's mass storage system is perhaps one of the most vital pieces of hardware in the computer. That's where you store your stuff, the things you create, your work, your photos, and other important files. I refer to this hardware as mass storage, but you'll also see the terms hard drive or disk drive used. Because some computers use solid-state drives or SSDs, the term mass storage covers both. Yet no matter what the device's name, keeping your PC's mass storage happy and healthy is important. The first place to view storage on your computer is the This PC window, a name I can't stand because it contains the word this. So forgive my awkward phrasing. Press the Windows and E key combination to summon a File Explorer window. From the address bar, choose This PC. The Devices and Drives area lists mass storage devices attached to your computer. Here you see the primary storage device, Drive C. This is a boot drive which contains the Windows operating system, which is what this little icon means. This system features an optical drive, an external hard drive, plus thumb drives. You might also see additional items in this window down here, such as network locations, media servers, and other devices not directly attached to the PC, but available over the network. This File Explorer window shows the drive icons in tile view. If your screen is different, click the View tab, and in the Layout group, choose Tiles. The tile view has an advantage in that it shows storage capacity for each device. This is an important bit of information. When the capacity gets too high, the thermometer bar changes its color from blue to red. To view more details, right-click a storage device. For removable storage, ensure that the media is in the drive. I'll click on the primary storage device and choose Properties. The Properties dialog box lists more storage details. You also see access to the Disk Cleanup button, as well as the option to compress the drive. I cover these features in another movie. The Tools tab lists commands for error checking and optimization. In Windows 10, you pretty much don't have to mess with these tools. Windows automatically schedules error checking and optimization. If you suspect storage problems, you can run a manual check. Click the Check button. Here you see confirmation that Windows has already checked the drive and not found any issues. If you're experiencing problems, however, you can click the Scan Drive button to check for issues. If there are any found, the Check Disk utility attempts to fix them. Be aware, this tool isn't magic. Back in the old days, people thought that running check disk would cure all kinds of ails, like a snake oil cure. Instead, it may find and fix errors, but it's not a universal drive error fix-it tool. Click the Optimize button to defragment the drive. Again, this is something Windows does automatically, so a manual check isn't necessary. And especially if you have a solid-state drive or SSD, do not run optimization as it can damage the drive. If a storage device required optimization, you'd see a high percentage value in the current status column. Finally, remember that the best thing you can do for mass storage issues is to create a system image and run regular backups. That way you know that the storage media's contents are safe, no matter what happens to the drive. When primary storage gets full, you have two choices. Get another hard drive, which works in the long run, but for immediate relief, consider freeing up some storage by removing files that occupy large tracts of storage real estate. 3 solutions I can recommend are provided by various Windows tools. These include disk cleanup, removing unwanted software, and archiving large files. I'll start with the easy tricks first. Press the Windows and E keyboard shortcut to bring up a File Explorer window, and choose this PC from the navigation area. An overcapacity drive shows a red thermometer in its tiles view. If so, or just to free up space on any drive, right-click the icon and choose Properties. In the Properties dialog box, click the Disk Cleanup button. Windows scans the storage device for files of no consequence that can easily be removed to increase storage capacity. Here you see the results with various categories of files listed and how much space will be freed. Not every item is checked, so review the list to see if you're okay with checking some of the other items that the utility left blank. Pretty much everything on this list is inconsequential. Here, the total amount of storage freed is 37.9 megabytes. You can also click the Clean Up System Files button to see if any items there might free up additional storage. When you click the button, the program starts again, but also includes some Windows system files. Again, go through the list and select those items you would not mind getting rid of, and nothing here is crucial to the operation of the system. And there's a previous version of Windows, and removing it will save 33 gigabytes of storage. That's pretty hefty. To remove the files, click OK, and click Delete Files to confirm. When it's done, you can check the pie chart in the drive's property dialog box and see whether it improves. Now, this drive was pretty empty for the most part, but it did go from 839 gigabytes of free space to now 863 gigabytes. If a drive is full, you can use any space you can get. Another step you can take to increasing storage capacity is to remove software you don't use, such as older programs, but also some of the pre-installed bloatware. To remove software in Windows 10, press the Windows and I keyboard shortcut to bring up the Settings app. Choose Apps. Choose the nearly full media from the list. Let's pretend it's drive C. And then sort the list by size. Here you see installed software on this computer. To uninstall a program, say something you don't use anymore, and I'm just going to pretend that one of these is something I don't use, click to select it, and then click the Uninstall button, and you would click Uninstall again to confirm. You can repeat this process for all those programs you see on this list, especially the big ones that you no longer use. And you can repeat this same approach for your own files by using the Windows search command. Open a Windows File Explorer window if one's not open already, and choose your account name from the address bar. Click the search box, and in the Search Tools Search tab, choose Size Gigantic. Now, nothing yielded results, which is good. I don't have a lot of big files here, so I can go ahead and look down, say to Huge. Still nothing matches. Large. And there are some files. When you see this list, make sure that you sort it by size. Choose View, Sort by Size. Now, if you don't recognize a file, leave it be. But for others, especially those really big ones that you recognize, consider removing them to free up some space. You can also copy them off to another drive that doesn't have a storage issue. That would be called archiving. And you can also remember to empty the recycle bin, which the disk cleanup program should have done. But if you do have a recycle bin that shows full up here instead of empty, you can right-click and choose Empty Recycle Bin, and then click Yes to confirm to delete those files as well. When you need to get down to the nitty-gritties of managing your PC's storage, you summon the Computer Management Console. Within the console, you'll find the Disk Management tool, which lets you access your PC's storage device at both a physical and logical level. To access the Computer Management Console, tap the Windows key and type Computer Management. Choose the Computer Management Desktop app. The Computer Management Console hosts many tools that help you assess the system's current status, such as the Task Scheduler and Event Viewer. In the Storage area, choose Disk Management. Here you see a list of storage devices attached to the computer. This is a similar list to the one that shows up when you elect to choose a boot device when the PC first starts. Below the list, you see the chart of each physical storage device. This chart includes physical hard drives, internal and external, as well as any media cards or thumb drives available to the computer. A physical drive is partitioned into logical drives or volumes. In many cases, the physical drive is the same as a logical drive, and the partition fills the entire drive space. That's true for drive G here. For the PC's boot drive, and perhaps other hard drives, you may find multiple partitions. If the partitions are available in Windows, they're assigned drive letters, and the letters show up in the Disk Management Console. For the Windows boot drive, the physical disk, you typically see multiple partitions, though each partition isn't assigned a drive letter in Windows. On this screen, you see 3 partitions on the PC's primary storage device. The EFI drive is where the BIOS program, the UEFI or UEFI, is stored. Using this startup partition is covered in another movie. Another partition found on the primary hard drive is the Windows Recovery partition. This volume contains Windows' original configuration information, which is how you can reset Windows or reinstall the operating system. On some PCs, this partition might instead contain a manufacturer's recovery program or diagnostic tools. Neither the UEFI or recovery partitions are assigned drive letters, but they show up here because they are formatted storage on the primary storage device. They are logical drives. Under certain circumstances, it's possible to expand a logical partition on a physical hard drive. The net effect is that you get a larger logical drive, but only when room is available on the hard drive. You can perform this task in a number of ways. First, if you see an unused portion of any physical drive, you can expand an existing partition to fill that space. That's not true for any of the drives on this system. Second, if you're not using a partition, you can remove it and then expand another partition into the unused space. For example, on this drive, you could remove one of these partitions if you weren't using it and then expand, like remove this one and then expand this one to fill the space. Third, you can shrink one partition to allow room for another partition to expand. To shrink a partition, you select it, right-click, and then choose Shrink Volume. Here you see the current volume size and how much you can reduce that size. The figure is calculated based on how much of the storage is actually in use. If I were to proceed with shrinking this partition, you would see available space here. At that point, I could create a new volume. Say another partition was available, I could expand it into that. You can shuffle the things around. That's the way it's done, but it's very rare and it doesn't happen that often. And if you do plan on shrinking and expanding partitions to, say, increase the size of a volume somewhere, please ensure that the data on that drive is backed up and fresh. You want to keep that safety copy handy just in case anything goes awry in this process. A printer is really its own computer, along with its own software, operating system, and hardware. It's just that unlike a computer, the printer does only one thing: put ink on paper. Whether the printer is directly attached to your computer or available over a network, its job is to create hard copy, or information on a sheet of paper that resembles something you created on the PC. When things don't work well, that's when you troubleshoot. Common printer issues include paper jams, ink issues, weird printing, and no printing. General approaches are available to remedy these issues. If your printer features a control panel, use it. Some printers have software you use in Windows from which you can control the printer. Either way, become familiar with the printer's control panel or software program. For general printer troubleshooting, ensure that your printer is connected, either directly to the PC using a USB cable or connected to a network that the PC can access. The network connection can be wired or wireless, so if the network's down, then you can't print. But you also can't get on the internet, so you probably noticed that issue first. Another movie covers network troubleshooting. Ensure that the connections are firm. Ensure that the cables aren't damaged. Check to confirm that the printer is on. Further, some printers must be selected or placed online. If the printer control panel or status lamp indicates that the printer is deselected or offline, reset it online. The control panel may also show that the printer is out of paper, low on ink, or some other issue that needs attention, such as a paper jam. Resolving a paper jam involves discovering exactly where the paper is stuck. I've seen smart printers that'll tell you exactly where the jam occurred and even show a graphic tutorial on how to unstick the paper. If you don't know where the paper is stuck, start with a paper tray. Ensure that it's full and that the paper is set properly. Remove the paper tray and reach inside to see if you can grab the paper and try to drag it out. You might want to turn off the printer first so that the gears don't engage while you're poking around. If you can open the printer, do so. Look for the stuck paper and try to tug it free. Also, avoid using thick or overly thin paper stock, which the printer's feeding mechanism may not deal with properly. Low ink warnings may appear on the printer's control panel with an air indicator lamp or even in Windows as a notification pop-up. For inkjet printers, the cartridge must be replaced. Properly eject the cartridge per the directions you find right inside the printer. No, you probably won't get ink on your hands, but I use rubber gloves just to be safe, and then I place the used cartridge into a Ziploc type of baggie. Insert the replacement ink cartridge per the directions shown inside the printer. For a laser printer, you can generally squeeze out a few more pages if you gently rock the toner cartridge left and right. This trick works only once, and I would recommend that you purchase another toner cartridge immediately because you don't know how long the trick will postpone the inevitable. Rocking the cartridge might also remedy streaks on the page, though these are generally a sign of low or no ink. If you see off-tone colors on printed material, it may indicate that one or more color cartridges are low. Replacing the cartridge is the only way to fix the problem. Spots or blotches on the paper might indicate that the ink cartridges need cleaning. Many inkjet printers feature a cleaning routine you can initiate either through the printer's control panel or by using the printer's software installed in Windows. As a final resort, you can restart the printer. I did this a few days ago when my printer was acting stubborn and slow. Turn it off, wait, then turn on the printer. Try printing again and perhaps the issue has been resolved. If not, you'll need to try software solutions, which are covered in another movie. Most printers, especially the all-in-one models, feature an interactive control panel. The screen displays the printer's current status, offering information about the network connection, ink level, paper stock, and other stuff. Even if the printer doesn't feature such a control panel, it may use a program in Windows that reports its status. Use this software tool to get more information about the printer and resolve some issues. The things you want to do with the control panel are cancel a print job, check the printer's overall condition including ink levels, paper stock, and any jams, and review network settings. When you print, the application generates a print job. The operating system takes over, sending the job to the printer and giving you the option of terminating the job if something doesn't go right. The issue with canceling a print job in Windows is that the document may print faster than you can cancel. Once the printer has accepted the job, Windows is out of the picture. Otherwise, when you print, you see a printer icon appear on the taskbar in the notifications area. Now, don't bother looking for it. It disappears quickly, so if you can click on it, you'll see the printer queue or the list of jobs waiting to print. Another way to view the queue is to use the Settings app. Press the Windows I keyboard shortcut, choose Devices, Printers and Scanners, and select the printer that you're using, such as this printer here. Click Open Queue. This window lists any documents or print jobs waiting to print. It's empty now, but if there were several jobs queued, you would see them here in the list in the order in which they print, top one first. To cancel a job, you would select it from the list and then choose Document, Cancel. To immediately cancel a print job, use the Cancel button on the printer. Press or tap that button and then wait for printing to stop. Now be patient. The currently printing page may continue to print even after you use the Cancel button. If printing doesn't stop or when the printer lacks a Cancel button, you can turn it off. Yes, that works. Back in the Settings app, to view more details and information about a given printer, click to select it and then choose Manage. Here you can print out a test page, run a troubleshooter on the printer, and perform other printer maintenance. This is the generic Windows version of the printer's software manager. Some printers may offer their own, more elaborate programs that feature interactive controls and other fun gizmos. An important item to examine for a network printer is its network configuration and connection. This information is best accessed from the printer's control panel or the printer's companion program in Windows. You can confirm that the network is available, and if not, check for an error report as to why. Check the printer's IP address, confirm that the Wi-Fi connection is enabled, and other tasks. If the printer has a companion program installed in Windows, use it to control the printer. It will monitor the printer's status as well as copy, scan, fax, and provide other functional controls. Installing the companion program is optional, though you may not be able to access all the printer's features when you opt not to install the program. For more printer troubleshooting, go to the home screen in the Settings app. Choose Update and Security, Troubleshoot, and run the printer troubleshooter. Here, the printer troubleshooter doesn't find any problems. Otherwise, you would go through the various questions and answers as the troubleshooter attempts to resolve any issues. When you attach a printer to your PC, what you're really adding is software in Windows that controls the printer. This software is generically referred to as a printer driver. A bad printer driver can lead to endless woe, from a printer that just doesn't print, one that's chronically unavailable, or a printer that outputs gibberish. The solution is to reinstall the printer driver. Unlike reinstalling other hardware drivers, reinstalling a printer driver involves removing its presence from the PC. You then reinstall the printer, choosing whether to use the existing driver or to fetch a new one. To disassociate the printer, press the Windows I keyboard shortcut to bring up the Settings app, choose Devices, Printers and Scanners. Select the problem printer and choose Remove Device. Am I sure? Yes. Now, if the printer you removed was the default, Windows will reassign a default printer. Now, don't worry, you can reassign the default printer later. Now, to add the printer back, you can choose to add printer or scanner. And if the printer was attached to the computer, just turn it off and turn it back on again. A network printer should show up almost immediately in the list of devices. If not, ensure that it's on and properly connected to the network. Try scanning again. When a network printer appears, you can choose it and click Next. You don't have to wait for Windows to find more printers. And then choose to replace the current driver when prompted. For a directly connected printer, click on it and then click the Manage button. Choose Printer Properties, the Advanced tab, and New Driver button. Use the wizard to find the printer, check its brand name, which should be listed right here, and choose the printer from the list. Next, and the driver should be replaced and installed. To confirm that the printer is working, print a test page. Check that the page comes out of the printer to confirm that it looks proper. When more than one printer is available to the computer, you can optionally set one as the default. Now, if that page didn't print or it looks gross, repeat these steps and choose to reinstall a new printer. Here in the Printers and Scanners window, you can see that the printer is installed. If there's more than one, you'll see one selected as the default. You might also see that an app is available for the printer. Choose the printer and click the Manage button. You can install or open the printer's app from this screen. That app will provide additional features and printer control, and using it is optional. It may, however, offer troubleshooting and help information beyond what's offered in Windows, and that might be worth looking into. A malfunctioning monitor is frequently confused with a broken computer. That's because the monitor is visual, and as the PC's primary output device, it's easy to believe that the entire computer is broken when it's just the monitor that doesn't work. But there's more to a PC's graphics system than just the display. Inside the console, you'll find the computer's display adapter. It's either circuitry on the PC's motherboard or stored on an expansion card, and together with the monitor, it comprises the PC's graphics system. The monitor connects to the graphics adapter using a video cable. A power cable connects the monitor to the wall. Surprisingly, all of these cables must be connected before anything works. Check your cables and connections. Further, both the computer and monitor must be powered on. The monitor may have a power button or touch sensor. This button or sensor has a lamp which is illuminated when the monitor is on. Further, most monitors use power-saving technology, so the button is one color when the monitor is asleep, say yellow, and another when the monitor is awake and receiving a signal, say green or blue. And when the monitor is off, well, the lamp is just not going to have any color. So, if a monitor is on, but the power button is yellow, then it may mean that the monitor is working, but the problem is with the graphics hardware inside the computer. To control the monitor or modify its settings, you use an on-screen menu. It's rare that you need to access this menu, and no uniform technique is used to summon the menu. Each monitor is different. On this monitor, you press this button, and there's the menu. You use this menu to adjust the display's physical aspect. You can set brightness, contrast, and color temperature. The brightness and contrast settings may help you fix a dark display or one that's too bright. Try not to over-adjust the monitor too bright, which is hard on the eyes, especially in a dark room. Some monitors may sport an auto brightness feature based on the ambient light in the room. If your computer's monitor has such a feature, use it. The color temperature settings control the color of the light the monitor generates. You can set the temperature to produce warm white tones in the yellow range of the spectrum or cold white tones in the blue range of the spectrum. So, if the monitor shows white colors that are too blue or too yellow, use the monitor's menu to adjust its color temperature. Monitors that feature multiple input sources have a switch that sets which input to use. For example, if your monitor is connected to both a game console and a PC, you use the input switch menu to select one source or the other. Look on the monitor's menu buttons for an input switch or summon the on-screen menu to choose the input. Sometimes the input source is selected automatically, depending on which gizmo is currently active. If you've checked all the connections and inputs and nothing shows up on the monitor, then try swapping out the monitor with one that works. Disconnect the monitor's power and video connections. Replace it with a second monitor, the one that works, and connect the power and video. You can perform this task while the computer is on. Now, if an image appears on the replacement monitor, then you know it's the old monitor that's to blame. Yes, monitors can break, especially if it's an older unit, and monitors contain no user-serviceable parts inside. They must be replaced. Also, many localities don't permit you to throw away a monitor in the trash. Please properly dispose of old monitors as well as old technology or electronics in the manner prescribed for your locality. The internal part of your PC's graphics system is the display adapter. It's hardware, either part of the motherboard or dwelling on an expansion card. Adjusting the display adapter is done in Windows. In fact, I recommend that you confirm that the display adapter and monitor are fully cooperating. The goal is to ensure that the adapter is powering the monitor at its native resolution. Right-click the Windows desktop and choose Display Settings. The Settings app appears, and it shows all monitors connected to your PC if you have more than one. Now you can set the monitor's relationship to each other and the monitor's orientation. You can also individually set each monitor's resolution. This PC has only one monitor, and if you see two, click one to select it to adjust its settings individually. Here I'm going to click the resolution menu for this one monitor, and you see a list of resolutions available. The recommended item is the ideal resolution for the combination of this display adapter and this monitor. Now we choose a different resolution here so that you can better see things on the screen. For some configurations, you might see 2 recommended items. The result of selecting a non-recommended resolution could be an odd-looking display. For example, the image may not fill the monitor's screen. Items may look distorted, and you may see flickering or other annoying artifacts. To remedy those items, ensure that the recommended resolution is chosen. To make further adjustments, choose Advanced Display Settings. This screen reports details about the graphics adapter, resolution, and so on. Choose Display Adapter Properties for Display 1. Here in the Properties dialog box, you can update the graphics driver, which may fix software compatibility issues, especially with computer games. Click the Properties button. Click the Driver tab. Click the Update Driver button. And search automatically for updated driver software. Windows probes the internet to search for a better display adapter driver. If found, the new driver is downloaded and installed automatically. The installation typically doesn't require that you restart the PC, though the screen may flash during the upgrade process. And the new drivers are installed. Now you can force a driver update if Windows insists that you already have the best driver installed, but perhaps you suspect that, that really isn't the case. To do so, you can click the Uninstall button to remove the driver. Now when you go through this process, you will see the display revert to a very low resolution. It will look ugly. Then you just repeat the process to update the driver as described earlier in this movie. Windows will fetch a new driver from the internet, install it, and hopefully that resolves the problem. Beyond the Windows method of installing drivers, many display adapters come with their own configuration and management program, such as NVIDIA's Control Panel. These display adapter programs, or control panels, offer far more details than what Windows shows, including perhaps some helpful diagnostics and other settings not otherwise available. The majority of PC peripherals use the USB port to connect to the console. The exceptions are some audio devices, the monitor, wireless devices, and the network. Otherwise, if it's a peripheral and it's available to your PC, a USB cable most likely connects it. The USB cable features 2 ends and 2 connector types. The standard USB cable features A and B ends, with the A end connecting to the computer or a hub, and the B end to the peripheral. A whole slate of connector types is available, including USB Mini, Micro, and the USB-C connector, which can be plugged in the proper way every time. The USB 3.0 specification allows for high-speed devices, such as hard drives, to be attached to the PC. USB 3.0 connectors look different than the older connectors, and they're often colored blue. If the PC runs out of USB ports, you can add a USB hub to the system. The hub is a peripheral itself, adding more USB ports for more devices. All told, you can attach up to 127 devices to your PC, though I assume you'll use a quantity far less than that. To review peripherals in Windows, press the Windows I keyboard shortcut to bring up the Settings app. Choose Devices. On the Bluetooth and Other Devices category, you see a list of items, each one a peripheral available to the computer. Now, not everything here is connected via USB cable, and the items listed aren't organized by connection type. To see more information, click the item Devices and Printers. The Devices and Printers screen is part of the control panel. It provides a complete list of peripherals, including wireless devices, media devices available on the network, printers, and so on. For technical details on the connection type, tap the Windows key and type Device Manager. Choose the Device Manager control panel item when it shows up in the list. In the Device Manager window, open the item Universal Serial Bus, that's USB, controllers. Here you see a list of all USB ports available to this PC, including any attached USB hubs and devices that may contain a pass-through USB port, such as a keyboard or monitor. If a problem is found with any of these items, a yellow icon flags the hub's hardware in this window. For issues with USB devices, the biggest problem happens with USB-powered devices. Some peripherals use the USB port's power supply as the device's power supply. For example, on my PC scanner, the USB cable also serves as the power supply. For such devices, it's best to connect the USB cable to a powered USB port. All the USB ports on the computer itself are USB powered. To determine whether a USB hub is powered, check to confirm that it has a separate power cord. If so, the hub also plugs into the wall, and that's a USB-powered hub. If the hub isn't powered and you connect a peripheral that needs power, that might explain why the peripheral isn't working. Some devices benefit from a direct connection to the console. If a USB hard drive isn't performing up to specs, connect it directly to the console. Another issue might be performance, especially with USB 3.0 devices. You can use older USB connectors with a USB 3.0 device, and doing so doesn't provide the peripheral with any kind of data throughput that matches its potential. To get the most from a USB 3.0 device, connect it to a USB 3.0 port, and both of these items should be code-colored blue. Finally, understand that the peripheral itself may have issues. For example, my USB-powered scanner has no on-off switch. When the software can't find the scanner, I must disconnect it and then reconnect it to get it to work. Further, while most USB devices work right away, some USB peripherals may require extra software to function. A fancy gaming mouse or keyboard needs that software installed so that you can access the peripheral's specific functions. The Windows Update service might not locate this software, so instead you need to visit the device's manufacturer's website to download the proper drivers. Always ensure that you visit the manufacturer's website directly and not another website that claims to host the files. As a tip, check the mouse or keyboard's notification icon on the taskbar. In many cases, you can click that icon to access the manufacturer's website and get the software updates. In Windows, to quickly test the speakers, click the volume notification. Click the adjustment gizmo, and you'll hear the Windows beep sound. Use the gizmo to set overall system volume, but keep in mind that the speakers or your headphones may have additional volume controls. To get more specific sound options, right-click the volume notification. Choose Sounds. On the Playback tab, ensure that the proper output device is chosen. The default is shown with a green check mark. To choose another device, select it and click Set as Default. On laptops, the switch between internal speakers and headphones happens when you connect your headphones or you switch to use wireless headphones. On the Recording tab, look for the default input device, shown with a green check mark. To test the mic, speak into it and the volume meter should jump accordingly. If not, you've chosen the incorrect input device or some troubleshooting is in order. To troubleshoot sound, right-click the volume icon and choose Troubleshoot Sound Problems. Proceed with the troubleshooter, making decisions as prompted. Now, if the troubleshooter does not detect any problems, check all the physical connections. Is everything plugged in? Ensure that the speakers aren't muted via a hardware button. Check for a hardware volume control as well. Ditto for the microphone. Is it muted? Also confirm that you're using the latest audio driver. Tap the Windows key and type Device Manager. Choose the Device Manager control panel item when it appears. If any issues are detected with the audio hardware, they appear in the Audio Inputs and Outputs category. Malfunctioning hardware is flagged with a tiny yellow icon. To update a driver, choose the proper hardware. Now, this system has a lot of audio hardware, which is atypical, but otherwise, you would double-click the item, click the Driver tab, and click the Update Driver button. Now, I won't do this here because they'd get mad at me, but if a better solution is found, you will see the software downloaded automatically from the internet and it'll be installed. That may fix the issue. Otherwise, if the latest sound software is installed, then software might not be the issue. You may have an audio hardware problem. On some of my computers, I've experienced endless problems with the microphone not working. The hardware doesn't recognize the microphone's connection. Rather than use the audio jack, the solution I found is to get a USB microphone or USB headset. This type of peripheral may not have the same audio issues as traditional microphones. You must remember to select the USB microphone when you configure various recording or chat programs. Locate the settings option within the program and then choose the USB microphone as the recording or sound input device. The network is down, but which network is that? Is it the local network or the big network, the Internet? Both of these networks operate together. Even if you have only one PC connected to a modem or router, you still have a local network as well as the Internet. To sleuth the problem, you start in Windows. Check the local network. Summon the network window. Press the Windows and E keyboard shortcut and choose Network from the navigation pane. This window should populate with various network devices, including any other PCs on the network, network printers, media drives, and so on. If this window is blank, the issue lies with the local network. The second and more specific place to look is the Network guy on the taskbar. If this icon shows a yellow warning sticker, then something's up with the network. Click the icon once to see a quick overview of network status. Here you see that the network is connected. For more details, choose Network and Internet Settings. The status window in the Settings app displays details about the network's current situation. Here you see that Internet access is available. You're connected to the Internet. If anything is awry with the network, your first option is to run the Network Troubleshooter. Choose Network Troubleshooter. Work through the questions to assist the troubleshooter. It may, for example, reset the network adapter, which could solve a local network connection issue, or it may probe the Internet to see where the problem lies. A final item to test on the software side is to consider a network adapter driver update. In the status window, choose Change Adapter Options. Select the computer's network adapter from the list. Here it's called Ethernet. Double-click that item to see the status dialog box. Choose Properties. In the Properties dialog box, click Configure. Finally, you see the Network Adapter's Properties dialog box where you can click the Driver tab. Click Update Driver to update the driver. Now, I'm not going to do that here because there's nothing wrong with this driver. But if you did click this, select the option to search automatically for the best driver. And if a newer or updated driver is found, Windows will install it. Otherwise, you'll see that the best driver is already installed, and then you can close all the windows. Any problems beyond Windows software are either hardware issues with the network or problems on the Internet. For network hardware, you can try restarting the network, which is the topic of another movie in this course. For problems with the Internet itself, such as with your Internet provider, you can contact them, but beyond that there's little to do, but wait until the issue is resolved. Network hardware trouble festers in several locations. The good news is that most network hardware is pretty reliable. Also, the fixes are kind of simple. For example, and most Internet service providers relate this troubleshooting technique, to solve Internet connection issues, turn off the broadband modem, wait about 30 seconds, and then turn it back on. Of course, turning it off really means unplugging the thing. I do this often enough that I've wrapped colored tape around the broadband modem's power cord. I just unplug the cord, wait, then plug it back in again. Most of the time, this trick solves the problem. If unplugging the modem doesn't work, then you must unplug the modem and the router. That's assuming that the network has both devices separate. When you power down both the modem and the router, reconnect the modem first. Wait for all its lights to come on, specifically the ready light if it has one. After the modem is up, plug in the router. When the router is up and running, the rest of the network should be active. Hopefully, the issue is resolved. In some dire circumstances, you may need to power down the entire network. For example, if you're having issues with multiple devices hogging the same network address, turn off all the network gizmos. Computers, printers, even switches and hubs if you use them. Then, starting with the modem, turn it on, turn on the router, then turn on any switches and hubs, and finally, turn on the network devices. Wireless or Wi-Fi network connections have their own set of problems. Above all, keep in mind that you most likely should be in the same room as the Wi-Fi router or base station. Being in the next room over is also okay, but the signal strength drops. 2 or more rooms away from the base station, and the signal gets weak and unreliable. Yes, I know, scientists claim that the Wi-Fi signal can go up to 300 feet. The operative words are up to. I'm sure that on the moon, the signal is great at 300 feet. You don't work on the moon, not yet at least. In Windows 10, troubleshoot Wi-Fi issues from the Settings app. Press the Windows I keyboard shortcut, choose Network and Internet, and choose Wi-Fi. For a Wi-Fi-enabled device, you see the Wi-Fi toggle located at the top of the screen. Try turning the network adapter off and then turning it on again. Sometimes this trick may fix the issue and reconnect you to the Wi-Fi network. If Wi-Fi is working, the next step is to check the router, which is officially known as the gateway. You access the gateway through its web page, so you need to know the local IP address and type that address into a web browser. Choose the status item from the left side of the Settings app window and choose View Your Network Properties. The number you want is the default gateway for the network in question, in this case the Wi-Fi network, and that address is 192.168.1.1. Open a web browser and type that number into the address bar. For some routers, you may be prompted to use a specific program or app on a cell phone. Do so, otherwise you'll see your router's homepage. You may have to log in. Go ahead and check with the directions that came with the router to see what the default username and password are. Otherwise, use the username and password that the router has been assigned. Most routers don't need further tuning and tweaking, but you do want to check on a few things. First, change the router's password from the default if you haven't already. This is a security precaution. The bad guys know all the default router passwords. Once you set a password, write it down. Put it on a piece of paper and stick that paper right under the router. That way you'll never lose it. Second, for a Wi-Fi router, give the network a unique name and ensure that it's password protected with WPA2 security or that you're using a WPS system. As with a gateway password, write down the Wi-Fi network's password as well. Label both passwords so that you know which is which. Don't use the same password for both. Third, ensure that the network is using DHCP to allocate local IP addresses. This is a far better configuration than static addresses, which are a headache to manage. Now, if you've changed any router settings, save them. This next step is to restart the router, and if you haven't saved, you'll be prompted. If you didn't make any changes, just leave the web page and you're done. Routers rarely need attention, though updates are often available for security purposes. Check the manufacturer's website for updates, as well as directions on how to apply them. The network seems fine. You can access other computers, you can print on a network printer, but for some reason, you can't get out on the internet. Is the internet up or down? Is the problem with a single web page? Is it your problem at all? In Windows, a missing internet connection is evident from the taskbar. The network icon features a warning flag. Right-click the icon and choose Troubleshoot Problems. You can work through the questions to see whether Windows can resolve the issue. If it's the internet that's down, however, the troubleshooter merely confirms what you already know. To personally troubleshoot internet connections, start with a modem. Is it on and receiving a signal? Check the lights. If the lights are off, the network is down. Still, power cycle the modem. Turn it off, wait, then turn it on again. If resetting the modem doesn't work, phone your ISP to see whether or not the internet is down in your area. The problem might be with a single website, so try loading a popular website such as LinkedIn, Google, or Bing. These sites might be up when the site you want is down. Websites do go down. You can use some command line tools to examine remote connections. The most popular is the ping utility. Right-click the mouse on the Start button and choose Windows PowerShell. Type the ping command in a space followed by a website domain, such as yahoo.com. Press Enter. If the internet connection is up and running, you'll receive packet replies and see them displayed on the screen, similar to what's shown here. When the website is down, you see timeouts displayed. The domain blorfus.com is unavailable. Another trick that works is to use a website similar to isitdownrightnow.com. Type a website into the search box for an independent check. I'll type linkedin.com, which you see here, and I'll click the check button. According to this service, the site is up and running, which means you might have a local connection issue. So what can you do? First, you can wait. If the issue is with your ISP, you can contact them, but unless it's a local outage, there's little that you can do. If you have a mobile device that uses a different ISP or network, you can access the site using that device. In fact, when my computer's internet is down, I use my phone to collect email or check online information. You can even use the phone as the computer's modem or set up a Wi-Fi hotspot. Ensure that your phone isn't connected to the local network, then you can connect to the mobile data network and do your checking. Be careful when using your phone to access the internet that you don't exceed the mobile device's data quota. Still, if you must get on the internet, that's a good tool to use. This course covered a lot of ground when it comes to troubleshooting your computer, but it doesn't cover everything. To help supplement your knowledge and to further your quest to improve yourself as you brave the cutting edge of technology, I have some suggestions. For general PC knowledge, I can recommend my book, PCs for Dummies. Other courses you might want to look into include Setting Up a New PC with Jolie Ballou, also Windows 10 Administration with Martin Guidry. And be sure to check back in the future for additional troubleshooting and PC hardware titles. I'm Dan Gukin. I hope that your PC adventure is beset with as few troubleshooting incidents as possible. Thank you for watching.